This morning I watched, for the first time in my life, an episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And Kyle Lom just donated $5 to ask a question I was about to answer anyway. So how far are you into JoJo? If so, favorite stands? Mine are Underworld, Enigma, and Red Hot Chili Peppers. Well, Biggs, I don't know what a stand is. Don't know what any of these things are.
So I was
Because we
gonna
are
say,
one episode in to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
sorry, Kyle. We're doing one episode a week, so he's only watched one. That's all he's obligated to watch. So he has no idea what half of that question means.
And some people think that doing one at a time for a show like this is stupid or pointless. And I have to remind them, you're watching the Monkey and Big show, so who's really wasting their time?
This is true.
But I will say, this pilot episode of JoJo, far more intriguing, great pacing, so many elements that I was not expecting to delight me. And I'm ready to dive into it with you, Biggs. I think my first point I want to make is that the character I hate the most. Let's start with that. Would you like to predict which character do you think I think should be not massacred, tortured, crucifixion style like Jesus or Don Quixote do Flamingo? You know, tie him up and everybody get your torches and fucking throw your rocks at him. Who do I hate the most?
My guess is his dad.
Yes! Thank you. What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Did you watch this in English or in Japanese?
Dub. So I watched Japanese. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it Japanese too with the English subtitles. So I figured I'd give it the old
Or sorry,
college
I
try.
watched it subbed. That's sub, not dub.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we both watched it with the Japanese voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, JoJo's dad. What a shitty father. The plot is we have JoJo who's rich, and then his new rival is Dio Brando, which I figured was a character you would relate to, Biggs, because you both are
Yeah.
named Brando.
True. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, my real life nickname is actually Brando. So
That's right. Well, it's on your birth certificate. Your mom got too lazy to finish the name.
that's true. Well, no, she just didn't feel right, using the letter N. So
Well, because your middle name is the N word, and it would have seemed like she was repeating too much.
fair enough.
Yeah, you don't want two N's in a row, unless you're. Never mind.
So you were saying?
So there's this. It opens up with aristocratic man in the mid 1800s. He's crashed his horse carriage or something like that. His wife's dead. The only survivors are him and his little baby JoJo. He's discovered by this alcoholic, creepy old man who's trying to rob them. JoJo's dad wakes up and wrongly assumes that this man is trying to help save them when he's really just a horrible man trying to take advantage of dying people. And JoJo's dad thinks he now owes a life debt to this man. And 12 years later, when the alcoholic man dies after torturing his son in growing up in London in poverty and all this horrible alcoholism, violence towards him, the old man dies and the son now gets to cash in this life debt and is adopted by JoJo's dad as his new son. And it's I just watched this movie Saltburn, and it's an identical plot to the movie Saltburn, where the poor kid kind of gets adopted into this rich family, and then he wants to take the inheritance for himself and eliminate all the rich people. And that's really, that whole story unfolds in this 20-minute episode. I thought they packed a whole shit ton of stuff in here. Is the pacing like this for the whole show? Because this was kind of insane.
So I feel like the beginning of each part kind of does this thing where they lay out the foundation and then kind of push you forward to where the modern time would be. So I don't know if it's as rushed per se, and I don't think it was super rushed. Exactly.
I wouldn't say
I guess
rushed.
there's
I think it was properly paced
Yeah,
to be as
there's
entertaining as possible.
right. It's just I guess what I'm trying to say is there was so much time packed into that first episode that it feels like a whirlwind of okay, we're here, and then all of a sudden, it's like 30 years later. Well, not 30, but probably like, what do you think, 15 years or
At
something
the end
like
of the
that?
episode, there's a 7 year time skip.
Right. So overall, there's like, 23-year difference from the beginning of the episode and the end, but it doesn't feel like you were forced too fast. Like you could pick everything up and understand what's going on the whole time. But yeah, I think the pacing was really good in this first episode. I would say probably not to this extent for the rest of the show. I don't think the pacing is as as good as it should be at times. There are times where it feels like it can kind of drag, but it to me, I don't think it ever stopped being interesting. So there's always new things happening.
Well, I would imagine the arc of this first season is the rivalry between Dio Brando and Jonathan Joestar. Is that the name of this kid?
Yeah.
And so far, I'm rooting for Brando. Am I wrong to do this? If we compare these characters, we have one who grew up, sure, he lost his mother as a baby, but he grows up rich with his dumbass dad, and he's kind of a loser. Like he sees a girl getting bullied and he wants to be heroic and protect her, but then like these two normal bullies beat the shit out of him without even really trying. So at least this shonen, this is probably not a shonen, but this shonen protagonist starts off pretty weak. I'm excited to see him build up and get stronger. But otherwise, he's just like a wimp. He tries to be a hero, but then when Brando shows up, he immediately kicks JoJo's dog extremely violently. And JoJo evidently would rather stand up for a random girl than his own fucking dog. And he kind of just lets it go, does not fight back, and eventually this dog gets fucking killed in an oven, burned to death by Brando. So I'm rooting for him. As evil as he is, at least he's making moves to improve his spot in life. He grew up in poverty from an alcoholic dad and was tortured, but he's fucking brilliant. He's better than JoJo at everything. And JoJo's not even willing to stand up for his own dog. So fuck JoJo. He's got a lot of work to do to get back in my good graces. I'm Team Brando.
So, I mean, that's very true. Um, I will say towards the end, he kind of redeems himself where he just kind of like lets all this pent up anger out and just like full on demolishes Dio in this last little fight. But I think the thing that is really holding him back is unlike Dio, he grew up in this household where his dad's word is like concrete. You can't do anything against his word, whereas Dio is out in the streets of London, like doing his own thing, fighting people. And there's like a point where it shows him playing chess for money or something. And
Yeah.
then, so he's been on the grind like his whole life. And uh, Jonathan just hasn't had that. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like he's kind of bound by his father's word. And since we haven't really talked too much about why you think he should be, murdered at the stake yet, but
Yeah.
for the whole episode, it's nothing but his dad ragging on him and saying, "Hey, you need to be more like Dio." And anytime Dio does something bad, he's like, "Just let it go." You know, like don't worry
Yeah.
about it. Let
I
it go.
think as soon as the dude kicks your dog, once you relay that information to your dad, it should be the end of the story. Like that guy should be out of your life. He should not be living with you as your brother. Like this is a dangerous person who attacked a member of the family. Some people don't consider pets members of the family. Me and Biggs tend to we disagree with that notion. So this dad is just like he's so ignorant and blind to the most obvious shit happening under his own roof. And he like walks in on these two at the end of the episode, like beating the shit out of each other. And he scolds his son since the other guy is like on the ground. And he says, "Oh, you can't attack somebody while they're down, you piece of shit. You're grounded."
Not only that, but like the way the framing was set up, he had to have seen the knife that Dio was holding before he like hid
Yeah.
it behind himself. So he walks out and sees his son and this kid that he brought in, because he felt like a life debt to his dad. And the kid's like holding a knife against his son and immediately hides it. And his first thought is, "Oh, my son, you're a piece of trash for fighting him while he's down, like this poor kid, that we brought into our home." And that's another thing I would say is like one of his biggest downfalls is being so blinded by this life debt to this guy who he had no idea was trying to rob him.
Hmm.
Like, I think I don't understand it, I guess. Why he feels so heavily about this life debt to some random kid who is the son of the guy. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
when
get
the
it.
guy wasn't even trying to help, like he wakes up while being robbed by this alcoholic old man and just makes up the story that he's actually helping him, and he dedicates the rest of his life to a lie that he himself made up.
Yeah.
Disgusting. So I'm hoping that he, Father Joestar, whatever his name is, I hope he gets killed by the end of the season.
Yeah. Um so what did you think of the transition of JoJo like getting beat up by the bullies and then it fast forwarding to him being like one of the fighting champs in that ring match that they set up?
Well, it was a little bit after his father was scolding him at the dinner table about how Brando is better than him at everything. He's more polite and all that. So I think that might have motivated Joe to start working on himself a bit and take fighting more seriously. Especially when you're living with a dangerous person, maybe he was getting ready for self defense in a way.
Yeah, see for me I don't know. It felt like you would want that to be the reasoning, but I think his sole reason for like learning to fight was for Arena, which we haven't really brought up yet.
Is
Um,
that just when two people are fighting? What's
no,
arena?
Arena is the girl's name. He's
Oh,
the love interest.
okay.
So in the scene where he gets beat up by the bullies and he's protecting this girl, her name is Arena. Crap, I just forgot her last name. Pendleton.
Yeah.
And so he's like trying to fight for her honor, but just gets completely demolished by these two guys. So I feel like that was his driving force to starting the fighting and stuff because you don't really see it until later. I guess no, it was the same scene, right? Where he's like in the ring and then all of a sudden he's fighting Dio instead.
Yeah, and Dio beats the
And then
fuck
they
out
go
of
on
him
this.
because
Yeah.
he grew up on the ghetto streets of London in the mid 1800s, so he had to learn how to fight.
And then he even like puts his thumb in his eye. Um, so
Yeah, that was fucked.
what did you think of that whole little side piece about JoJo and Irina and the whole
So,
Dio thing?
uh, Dio Brando, and I don't think it's really established why, but he really hates JoJo, and he doesn't want JoJo to have one happy thing in his whole life.
No,
Like what?
so it does explain it. During one of his monologues, he's saying he wants to break his spirit so that when it comes time for his dad to give the inheritance, he feels that Jojo is too like inept to take the inheritance, and that he would give it to Dio. So he's
Okay.
trying to break him down any chance he can,
Yeah,
so
but
he becomes
it
like
it feels a little
useless.
personal, like he has a personal grudge against him because
Well, he does
yeah.
because Dio or Jojo grew up in this kind of high life, whereas
Well, yeah, he's like
Dio
me.
had to
If
like.
I could do this to a rich person, I definitely would. So yeah.
So yeah, he just sees this rich kid that's been coddled his whole life and he never had to fight for anything. He's like he doesn't deserve this inheritance, so that's why he's got like this deep seated hatred towards him.
Well, anyway, back to what I think about this little conflict. Jojo, he's got this little girlfriend now, but then Dio can't let him have anything good in his life, so he thinks the way to ruin their relationship is to steal the girl's first kiss. I guess not even the hymen needs to be eliminated now. Just if you lose your lip kiss virginity, this woman is spoiled, and JoJo can no longer be with her for some reason. And by the way, all these characters are supposed to be 12, I believe. They all look about 20, but they're all supposed to be 12. So Dio Brando grabs JoJo's girlfriend and forces a kiss on her lips. And I really appreciate. I was gonna say that she was kind of a flat character, kind of boring. But then when she started washing her mouth out with mud after that, I had to give some props to her.
So I think we have to look at this with you know the perspective of that time setting. Sure, today's day and age, it's like a kiss doesn't mean anything, and oh,
Yeah, me
it's
and
the
Biggs kiss all
virginity
the
that
time, and I
matters.
don't feel anything from it.
But then it's like back in this day and age where everything is so what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know why I'm not thinking of the word. But anyways, it wasn't common for people to just go out with people and kiss and make out and that sort of thing. In this time setting, it was like you would court a girl, the family would either allow you or not allow you to court them, and there would be like really little to no physical contact, even like hand holding and stuff. So for him to take that first kiss, it really did like, mar her image to her uh, specifically, because you could see JoJo, like, even after he finds out, he's mad, but he still wants her.
Yeah.
But for her, it's like, I'm useless rags now because he's done this to me. So it's like, I can get the perspective of, oh, it's dumb, it's just a kiss, but also from the author's standpoint, this is a different era where it means more than just that.
Yeah, I guess I would just interpret it as consent matters, and it doesn't count as a first kiss unless both parties were consenting to it. Because
Well,
at that
see,
point, it's just one person kissing another. It's not like she's tonguing him back.
I mean, yes, that's true of our perspective today,
Yeah.
but even as Dio said, forced or not, it matters because it's her first.
Okay.
And that's why he knew it would be so damaging to her and to JoJo.
Well, hopefully they can overcome this horrible obstacle, even though it's been a 7-year time skip, and I don't know if he's even seen her in that time. Do we have
So,
any? I guess the question of intrigue at the end of the episode is, how did Dio burn the dog alive if he wasn't there when it happened? Because the dad says that Dio's at school or something, so he couldn't have done it, and they think that it was some sort of burglar.
see, I think the question of intrigue for the end of the episode, and we haven't brought it up yet, is what do you think is going on with this mask? First
Right?
of
Yeah, we
all, we
completely
see it
forgot to bring up the mask.
we see it in this briefcase, being carried by Joseph, right? Because the dad's name is Joseph, right? Joseph Joestar the first,
The
and
dad's
his
name
son's
is
name is
Piece of Shit
Jonathan.
Who I Hate.
Sure. So we see it in his briefcase when what is his name, Dario Brando or whatever, the dad of Dio, saving him. He opens up the briefcase and you see this mask, and then the blood from the stagecoach driver hits it, and then like these spike things come out, right? But then later on, you see it again hanging in the house, and at some point, there's a splash of blood, and it happens again. So what was your takeaway from that?
It seems to be some sort of ancient artifact. It kind of looks like a Japanese kabuki play mask to me, like they would have worn back in the old days for a Japanese play. It seems kind of like a haunted thing, and I imagine it has some sort of power. Maybe I hear about these stand things. It's like I don't know much about it. It's like a ghost that's attached to your body that has funny powers. Maybe the mask will unlock JoJo's stand. Maybe that's my prediction of the week.
That's your prediction? Okay.
Yeah. Are there any other questions that, like leading questions for my predictions that you want to ask?
Um, I guess there wasn't a whole lot left over
Yeah, we've
from the
we've talked about
first.
this episode as long as the episode is at this point.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing I would say is, do you think Joseph will ever redeem himself and you know defend his son by the end of this part?
Mm, well, if the show is about the legacy of this Joe Star family, and each season it's like the next descendant or something, I have to assume that the entire family ultimately will be heroic. So hopefully, the senior JoJo will uh, realize the error of his ways and be on his son's side.
I guess we shall see.
I did miss